Hey folks, welcome back. This is part 3 of the 3-part tutorial series where we learn how to model and animate this perfume bottle. So without further ado, let's get to it. So leaving off from the last tutorial, you should be left with this scene here. We're using the HDRIs that came with Blender, but we'll be deactivating those in a minute. So the first thing we'll tackle is probably going to be the animation of the bottle. I'm going to add a bonus animation for the camera, which will be called a dolly zoom. It's quite a well-known camera move in the industry. But before we do that, I'm just going to adjust this band here because it doesn't quite look right, and if I remember rightly, with the last perfume bottle I done, I actually scaled this down slightly. So I'm going to deactivate the solidify modifier. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to select all toggles. I'm going to hit S, Z. I'm just going to shrink that down just a little bit. It's so on render we can see this beveled edge on the glass bottle. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to get a bit more organised as well. I'm going to rename that to band. I'm then going to select all the objects. So I basically hit left click select and then Control Shift select everything. I'm going to shift select for cylinder, circle and the band. And then I'm going to hit M for move and add collection, and we'll call this perfume assets, and then click this box here, and then everything should be in this folder here. Excellent. So to rotate the bottle, I'm actually going to use an empty, so I'm going to parent all the objects to the empty, and then I'm going to animate the empty to rotate on the z-axis, and everything should follow with it. So to do that, I'm going to hit Shift A and then go to empty, and I'll choose a sphere just for visual purposes. I'm going to scale it up a bit as well so I can see what I'm doing. I'm then going to select everything in that group except for this outer ring, so I'm going to hit Shift, click the outer ring, click it again, and it's deselected. Now I'm going to hit Shift and left click select the empty. I'm going to hit Control P, and then I'm going to select Object Keep Transform. Now when I grab the empty, everything moves with it. I can rotate it, everything moves with it. So from here, by the way, I've set my animation frame rate to 30 frames per second, and the reason I do that is I like to overdub music at 120 beats per minute, and if I select 240 frames, that means it will be 4 bars, and then the animation will loop after 4 bars. It just makes it nice and seamless, saves messing about in a video editor. So from here, I'm going to select the empty. Oh, by the way, I've also got my graph editor up here, and this is the timeline, which is there. Okay, so with the empty selected, I'm going to go to the object settings. I'm going to add a keyframe on the rotation z-axis. I'm then going to skip to the end and then skip one more frame to 241. The reason why is because I want a seamless animation. If I set it to 240, there'll be a slight jump. So I'm going to type in 360 degrees, or just 360 in the z-axis. I'm going to click the keyframe button again, and as you can see in the graph editor, we've got a Bezier interpolation, which means it's going to start slow, it's going to increase in speed, and then it's going to slow down towards the end. We don't really want that. I want a consistent speed throughout, so it gives the appearance of a seamless loop. To change that is simply hover over the Bezier, hit T, and then click linear. Now we've got a continuous speed, and it should be a seamless loop toward as it goes back to the beginning, like that. Excellent. From here, I'm going to animate the camera. So I'm going to select my camera. I'm going to go into camera view. At the moment, I've set the focal length to 20 millimeters, and I've set the distance to -7 meters on the y-axis. So I'm going to add keyframes on both of those. I'm then going to skip to the last frame, move it one more frame, so it's frame 241. I'm going to add a keyframe there, then go to my camera and add a keyframe on the focal length too. I'm then going to select frame 120 because that's half of 240. I'm going to set the focal length to 40 millimeters, add a keyframe. I'm then going to go to the location, and that's probably going to be around 12 meters. Yep, I'm going to set it to -12 meters, and I'm going to add a keyframe there. Now, I do want to keep the Bezier curves on this, so I want a smooth interpolation for the camera zoom. Otherwise it's going to zoom in and then all of a sudden zoom out, and it will give a jerky kind of reaction, and that's not what we want in an animation. But to show you the effect of what this does, is if I hit play, it will give a dolly zoom. It should be seamless. Excellent, it's seamless. Right, so let's get on with the lighting. So from here, I'm going to deactivate my HDRI because I want to use my scene lights and my scene world. So the only light we've got at the moment is the light that we added into this kind of donut shape. Acts as, pretty good rim lights, but we're going to add to this. So I'm going to go out of there into workbench. I'm going to hit Shift A, add mesh plane. I'm going to rotate that plane on the x-axis by 90 degrees. So that's RX 90. Hang on, I haven't got my screencast keys on. Let's add that. I'm then going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit S20 to scale it by 20. I'm going to hit tab to go out of edit mode. I'm then going to go to side view. I'm going to hit G, Y, and say 2 meters back from here. So that's 4 meters in total. From here, I'm going to hit Shift A, add light, area light. Now I want this light to be rotated on the x-axis by 90 degrees, so it's actually going to be pointing towards this plane here. I'm going to drag it, or hit G, Y, and snap it to around about there. I'll also center it as well. GZ, so it's roughly centered in line with there. So this is going to serve as a bounce light. I'm going to add a new material to this plane first of all. I'll just keep it set to white at the moment, but what I do want to do when my blender stops freezing, hang on, my blender's froze, what's going on here? Oh yeah, okay, I'm going to set the metallic value to say 0.75. I'm going to set the roughness, I'll keep the roughness as it is for now. But now I'm going to select that area plane. I'm going to go into render view just to see what we've got so far. I'm going to set the area plane to disk. So these are your light settings here. I'm going to increase the disk to say about 2. I might even change the colour to a kind of a yellowy colour. I'm going to increase the power level, say around 150. See how we go with that. Yeah, that's quite nice. I could even bump it up to 200. Let's just see. Okay, that's acceptable. I'm then going to Shift D to copy that area light, go to side view, and then I'm going to drag this area light back to roughly around where the camera is, and I'm going to rotate it down as well. Now this area light we're going to make a lot bigger, so I'll probably set that to 20 meters. So there's a real big area light. We're going to have to increase the power output of this, but before we do that, we take the saturation right down so it's a white. Let's just increase our workspace a little. Go into rendered view. So I'm going to increase this light to say around 500. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. When we're doing this as well, instead of like just getting a front face view, it's important to like look from all angles as well to ensure that we're getting good bounce light. I can see it's not too bad. We'll improve that as we go on. So anyway, I'm going to then take this light, I'm going to hit Shift D, duplicate it. I'm going to hit G and bring it down to probably around about here. And then going to rotate it. Actually, it might be a bit high. It's a bit low. Let's bring it down. So I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to change the size, probably say something like 8 meters, maybe. Go into into camera view, hit the render tab. Yep, it's a bit too bright there, so let's tone that down. 250. Okay, that's looking better. We're getting a nice gradient between light and dark. Okay, I'm not happy with the material on the lid, so I'm going to adjust that slightly. Instead of having full metallic, I'm going to have mainly metallic, but I'm also going to have a bit of diffusion on there as well. That way it will give like a sheen type effect, almost like a pearlescent, but without the colour. I'll keep the roughness as it is. I might turn the specular up as well to 0.75. So then it just picks up the light reflections a lot better as it's rotating. Let's just see what we've got so far. So I've got that one set to 520 meters. This one set to 8 meters at 250. We'll just mute these two again, and we'll just check our backlight, our bounce light. I might turn that up to 250. Just looking for any artifacts. Okay. Bring these back in. Usually when you do product renders for anything with like specular, like metallic, or anything that's kind of shiny, ideally you are supposed to use a thing called gradient lighting. I'm not going to cover gradient lighting in this tutorial. I might make a separate tutorials all about gradient lighting, but if you look up product photography gradient lighting on YouTube, I'm sure you'll be able to find quite a few tutorials on the subject, different lighting for, you know, different requirements and different materials, etc. So from here I'd say that's pretty much done. I will just show you how to set up your render settings. It's fairly straightforward, so I might just go for 512, or actually I'll go for 256 samples. I'll have a noise threshold of say 0.025. The higher your threshold, the quicker the render time, by the way. I'm going to turn light tree off. You don't really want that unless you're doing interior renders. It can really slow down your render times. My light paths, to be honest, I don't really need 32. I might go for 24, and I might go for 24 on the transparency. It should be more than enough because we've got that lighting, the glass hack with the transparency pass, so it's not really essential, but I will turn my glossy up one notch there. So now we go into our render settings, which are down here. First of all, you choose an output of where you want to save your files to. I'm going to save it to my Unity drive, and I should have a Blender cache folder, and then G. There you go. we don't need the alpha channel, so I'm just going to set RGB, set a compression of say 25%. Usually I have no compression, and normally I'd set it to OpenEXR because, you know, it retains more information, but this is just for a tutorial, so there's no worries there. And then I would simply hit Control F12 and it will render out an image sequence. You then open up those images back into Blender or in DaVinci Resolve, where you can stitch them together to make a video. Just ensure that you set your frame rate for DaVinci Resolve or Blender at 30 frames per second, because that's what we animated this as. Alternatively, you can just hit FFmpeg, and that will give you an MPEG-4 or under H.264 codec, which is what I'll do in DaVinci Resolve anyway. But I always prefer, if it crashes halfway through, then you know you've lost your whole file. So by choosing image sequence, if Blender crashes, then you've still got all the previous images that you've rendered, and then you only have to continue rendering from where you left off. So I'll leave it at there. I'll just hit Control F12 just in case some of you don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much the tutorial in a nutshell. I hope you got value from watching it, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next set of tutorials. Thank you for watching.